It's the only way to do the show. Laid back. Yeah. I don't have gin and juice, but I got my cheap strawberry soda. Yeah, bed's the place to host Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. I just got off the bike after 300 miles. Just fired up all this stuff, climbed in here. Welcome, everybody, to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. I believe it's episode number 275. I might have a sheet someplace with some information on it for me, but I don't really know because I was busy going live on the Instagrams right here. And we do this show. This is where we talk about motorcycle-related products. It's a full studio here in the motorhome. The generator just downshifted a third time and is revving like crazy. So hopefully this whole thing doesn't blow up. And when it does, it's over. I'm not going to fix anything. I'm just going to let it shut down. So I might start pretty quickly. I might get to Roosterendo real quick because I want to do that. I have a submission. I tried to get Trevor to come on, but he's chicken because he hasn't been answering his questions. And if you're on the Instagrams, I'm going to hang up on you in a couple minutes. Go over to our Facebook and our YouTube channel. If you're listening to this, because it is a podcast, it's probably a week or two late. If you want to know what's happening in the moment, you go live tonight on Tuesday and you get to hear what we do. If you're listening to it on the podcast, it's been a little while. You can still send us an email, jimmy@dirtbiketest.com. I will answer those questions on the next show, whatever the next show is. You could be listening to show number 10. We have like 270 some episodes uploaded on our SoundCloud. You can search it on the however you get, I don't even know how you get whatever this is, podcasts, pod shows, live pod things. They're up there and you can listen to them. Hopefully every time you learn something. You can't ask the questions live there, but you will learn something. We try to drop a bit of knowledge every single time. But thanks everybody for joining in the chat. Kazmiriz says, oh heck yeah, he's just working on a KTM 530 EXCR. And if you're working on a KTM 530 XCR, that's they're easy to work on. The problem is you have to work on them too much. That particular generation of bike had some issues, I would say. A little bit of durability. Tell me how the sound is. I appreciate that. Mark Daniels says he's on time with the Pacifico in hand, and of course, some Tech Talk Taco Tuesday tequila. So sometimes this is Tech Talk Taco Tuesday and tequila, and I usually have something that's actually good that I'm proud to show. But we're in a low tide, no tide situation. Look at this. This is the tequila tonight. Yeah, I might have a shot later. We'll see. It's what was in stock. Okay, so good. Well, everybody, I'm gonna hang up on the Instagrammers and get back into the show. Start handling the questions. So drop the questions in the chats, and I will get to you. There were no questions on Instagram because they can't pay attention long enough to even ask a question. So see you soon. And now I'll fix that stuff later. We got some stuff on this show. Had a couple questions submitted, and you know that I'm really good at reading. He says he's here for the GYTR bit. Well, it's not a bit. I was going to do one other thing. I was going to go to dirtbiketest.com and search, which I do all the time. I search the story that I wrote about it because sometimes I can't exactly remember what what I said. So I'm literally, my other hand over here is typing right now. It's typing, going to dirtbiketest.com, which is our website. It's amazing. It has a really good search feature, so I'm going to type in, I'm just going to type GYTR, and I'm going to hit search. And I'm pretty sure he read the article on it, and that's what prompted him to do this. So we did ported cylinder head. Here it is, February 9th, 2022. Trevor wrote this. I remember helping him with it because at that time, I don't know if Trevor had the skill set to install it, so I know that I did the install on that particular thing. But anyhow, I might read it because this show could get boring and I might need something to do. But so the question is, let me get to the question here. The question was, I'll go back. The original question from Renee. I hope I'm saying your name right. The original question was, hopefully it comes up here. It says, I just got done reading your review of the GYTR head for the new generation YZ250FX, or F. They're the same, essentially. And he actually linked it, so I could have just gone to his article. I am interested in potentially purchasing one for my F model. Now that I use for a model that I use for Florida hair scrambles in the future, and I have some questions. Thank you for asking the questions. This is why we answer it. I told Trevor to answer it, but he didn't do it. The first being, are you obligated to run a high compression piston full race fuel if you run that head? And the answer is no. You can just bolt the head on. But it's, in all honesty, when you start doing that level of modification, that head, you're probably going to want to pair it with a few things. So you can just drop the head right on top of your stock bike. Two, if not, are there any actual benefits to the head with the OEM piston on 93 pump gas? Yes, it will help, but not as much. It's designed. You're kind of going to 10/10ths, and what I would think is that if you don't want to spend the money on the race gas, which you should do with the high compression, the head might just not be necessarily the best mod. So I also find that second gear out of deeper, tighter sand conditions feels like it revs out pretty quick, but doesn't necessarily pull any harder going from corner to corner. Will this help on the motocross model, being that the gear racers are spaced closer together, or will actually just get to the gears sealing quicker? Thanks and great job on the article. Okay, so we did tell him all the stuff in the article. He wants to run it on a motocross bike, is what I'm getting. And I'm going to click back to my chat here so I can see if he's going to kind of answer some questions for it. He is good. So if Renee, if you have any questions as I'm doing this, just kind of pipe them up in the chat, and I might take a break, but I'll get back to the questions because there is a little bit of a delay. So, as far as like, the first thing is, have you tried another exhaust? So the stock exhaust is pretty good, but I'll tell you from experience, running an FMF system with the Mega Bomb header will kind of help with some of that pickup, that kind of like low to mid, and it just seems like it helps all the way through the power spread. And that's kind of also dependent on the muffler you're running. I don't know if you have to run a spark arrestor when you guys are racing. Probably not in hair scrambles, but okay, he currently has a full FMF. The thing I would try before I started doing anything else is I would play with the outlet diameter. So whether or not you're running a spark arrestor, whether you're running the whole insert out or having the insert in, because it really changes the character. And when we had that head, I know we were running it on with a stock pipe. I don't remember if we switched. So no spark arrestor and stock ECU. So the good thing is that you can tune your ECU, and above and beyond anything else, this is why I kind of asked, because the head, everything after the head is going to affect the head, being the exhaust system. So I would play around with whether you have the because most people just take the quieter insert out before they even try it. I would definitely try that in and out. It takes 2 minutes to put it in, pull it out. Sometimes they're hard to get out, but try that. Then, if you've played with the mapping, okay, it's completely uncorked. Amazing how I knew that. Put if it came with the insert, put the insert back in and see if that helps. I'm going to steer you away from. And by the way, this program, this show, Dirt Bike Test, is brought to you by Yamaha. So I'm going to steer you away from buying a GYTR head, unless we're kind of at the last resort. I would say play around with the ECU tuning, because I felt that I could get just as much out of the tuning as far as what I was feeling. And I think as I'm trying to remember, it was like the GYTR head was making more power, and there was a couple ways that we kind of tested to feel it, but it didn't change the character as much as the tuning did. And a lot of times the character is causing you to ride in certain RPM ranges and stuff, and if you play around with it, you can get more effective use of the power that's already there. Another question that kind of came in is like a Utah Desert Racer says, do you have a preference between FMF and Pro Circuit pipes? If I were going for pure power, 4-stroke wise, I would go with Pro Circuit. And it seems like the Pro Circuit 4-stroke pipes are just smoother, but they're also louder. And so I actually run FMFs most of the time, and I mostly run an FMF-Q because I like the quieter noise, and I like it a little bit more restrictive. The Pro Circuit mufflers don't like to be restricted. So like I said, Pro Circuit, pure power. FMF, I get a little more tunability, and especially at the sound level, and especially with the smaller inserts, I'm able to basically have better luck. So with that level of tuning. And he thinks, okay, so Renee's thinking it's a bit lethargic with it in. Let's see. And then, okay, so he has the Stevie map that's one of the Yamaha guys' map. Works well in most conditions for me. The full-on hard-hitting map is a bit too touchy in slower speed whoop sections. Okay, that's good help. I can send you a map that you might try, and it's one that I use in an Uncorked WR that where you're saying it's lethargic, Yamaha, I think, wants to have a little bit of a hit, and if you uncork it, it's just tuning. It's all it is. It's just where the pipe starts working, the map doesn't work, and you want to play around with it. Throw that lethargic sucker in there. I'll send you a map, and you'll find that the bike pulls through that a little bit better, and net you end up riding a little bit higher RPM. So I don't know. And then the same thing with the gearing is if it runs out too quick, that's a good reason to maybe go down one on the rear, and or play with that as well, because I don't think it would make that much of a, it makes a difference, but it's more the rider thing. And that's what's so cool about the Power Tuner app is I could send you a map and you could say, hey, I wish it would do this, and then go read one of our fuel injection tuning articles where we kind of explain some of the easy ways to think about fuel injection. Like ignition timing is all about throttle response, like what you feel when you twist the throttle. Fueling is all about the traction that you're getting, and it's very clearly explained in our in the article where we talk about how to fuel injection tune. So there's a lot. Yeah, and I'm not. Yeah. Okay, so you got to gear it a bit taller if the bike starts running out. But in order of importance, on an F, the first thing I would do is play around like crazy with my Yamaha Power Tuner. That's gonna be big rewards, and you're not gonna hurt anything by doing it, but just play around with just certain things. Just fueling in certain ranges, just ignition in certain ranges, just so you can feel what it's like. and it's amazing how you can put things together. Kind of just wholesale switching to someone else's maps is not going to teach you the things that thing is capable of doing. And it's a super powerful tool. I use that before I do almost anything else. So, in your F already has a pretty good exhaust system on it, so that's not as advantageous. But the FMF does add a little bit of a thing, so you've already got that. So you're kind of at the next phase. In my world, high compression piston will do more than the head. And I would put the high compression piston in and commit to running the race fuel if power was what I was after. If you kind of run into this thing where it's like, man, I don't want to spend that money on the fuel and I kind of want to get a little bit more, then maybe I would go with the cylinder head. And it's just everything's going to change at that point. You're going to have to do a little bit more tuning. But it's sort of like the process of kind of what's the next thing I can do. I don't know if you could cheat. Can you run a big bore? I want to put a big bore on my bikes, on my 250Fs. But I'm fat, so that's the way it works. Okay, so that's the kind of the stair stepping approach to that. Renee, hey, you got Trevor's email. You should send him a really scathing email about him not getting back to you and dealing with some of our clients. Anyhow, this show would not be possible without another sponsor, Klim. I am nice and warm. It's freezing outside right now, but I'm wearing Klim mid layers. This is my Klim 2.0 that I wore today. It's right on top of another technical Klim like base layer, and I was super comfy. We went from 33 degrees when I started riding till 78 degrees in the middle of the day and back, and I just used some zippers, and I have Klim 1.0 undergarments on, and it's all good. Sometimes, if you tell me what you're looking for, you can send me an email. I might be able to get a discount code. So don't just say send me the discount codes, because I'll bitch at you on this show and say you got to be a little bit better than that. So, okay, moving on. I'm going to go straight into Rooster Endo because the generator I think just dropped into second gear. It was wide open in 6 when I started, but I think it's actually having to heat the Starlink up now, and that takes a little bit of extra power. But if you do have any questions, ask them in the chat. I will get right to them. Let's see. Brian does have a question. Brian Noble 366 says, if you have a certain overall gear ratio decided, could you explain how the engine and rear suspension are affected by the different size sprockets? Okay, Brian, I'm no engineer, but I know what I feel when I've done testing with this kind of stuff. So the biggest thing with you've got two factors there. You're dealing with your chain length and your length of, which is your swing arm, and your axle in relation to the swing arm pivot and in relation to the countershaft sprocket. So the biggest thing is the farther you go back, the more leverage you have on the suspension, and the wheelbase gets a little bit longer, and the bike, for the most part, can get a little bit more stable, and it somehow that takes weight off the front end. But now I got people emailing me through the podcast from somebody else's account wanting to know when we're going to do the Tequila podcast. Look, I'm busy explaining something that I have to think about, like leverage ratios on a suspension right now. So I'll get to that question in a few minutes. So back to the swing arm. So it has to do with like leverage on the shock, and then when you go to bigger sprockets, like if you go to larger rears, it takes some of the leverage off of the chain. It changes the leverage. So bigger front and bigger rear sprockets means that it's not. Is it pulling on it harder or less? So typically with bigger sprockets, the suspension is a little bit more free. When you go to smaller sprockets, I think it stiffens the initial movement of the suspension up, and I think it's because there's more torque on the chain. I get completely off base on this, but that's what I felt. Bigger ones allowed it to be freer, and I know a lot of times when chassis would get kind of bound up, a lot of the time they would say, hey, we can go to a different gearing ratio. So they try to manipulate the sprockets so that they could, they want to keep the ratio sort of the same, and then they would manipulate the sprockets to make it work better. This is something that most riders don't necessarily feel, but everybody kind of has a question about it. And then with the sprockets, are you keeping the chain length the same? Because if you just change sprockets and your wheelbase changes by a large margin, you're changing something completely different. And we always like to kind of do one thing at a time. So, so hopefully that answered the question. Alex, to you, live at Ramiro's. I'm capable of doing a podcast remotely now. I got part of this test. The reason why I'm doing this show tonight was to test my kit, to see if my kit's going to work when I come to Ramiro's Mexican Food in Pahrump, Nevada, on Humamuca Road. Even though I can't even say that. We're going to do the tequila testing podcast thing, and we will probably not be using Four Freedoms as well. We could use as our base hooch if we need it to, if we're doing some testing. So, you can't get out of my hair because I don't have any. So there we go. Okay. Oh, and then whoever asked the question about the sprockets, let me know if that answered it a little bit or enough. Oh boy, I hope I don't break something. I just pushed the wrong button. I actually tried to use the computer. It was Brian. Yep. Brian, get back to me if I answered your sprocket question. Okay, on to Roosterendo. Uh-oh. I got to turn that off. There we go. Roosterendo is... Oh, mosquitoes. You got to be kidding me. You never win around here. I've got to get my email up so I can read the question. Roosterendo is brought to you by Taco Moto. Taco Moto can fix any problem you have with your motorcycle. They'll sell you they'll sell you everything you need. And they sponsor this segment where Roosterendo works like this. You send us a picture of your bike. You tell us your make and model. Tell us a little bit about your bike. And we, tonight that's me, will talk about your motorcycle. Talk about your mods or your picture or whatever. And then we will decide whether it Roosterendo. So here we go. Here it is. This is from Michael. He is submitting his 2021 Sherco 300 SEF for consideration. It's very polite of him. The picture is from last weekend riding in Utah in the someplace. I don't like to mention names of places, but I know that place. This bike is built for mountain single track, but it's too early for that type of riding, so my lunch cooler rode where I normally carry a chainsaw. Here's some of the equipment on this bike. He has a Recluse clutch. He has the Thumper jockey headlight tucked underneath the chainsaw mount, and his lunchbox is on top of his chainsaw mount at the moment. He has Tusk handguards, Enduro engineering chainsaw mount. Yeah, I ended up going with the I'm drawing a blank on his name. He lives up there in Idaho. If you can remember his name, put it up in the chat because I can't remember right now. Bulletproof radiator guards. Thank you, Bulletproof, another sponsor of this show. C Concept seat. C Concept also helps us out. Enduro plate from Takamoto. There we go. Acerbis fork protectors. Acerbis engine guards. I like those Acerbis engine guards, by the way. They bolt right on and they just give you that extra little bit of protection. Aux brake left hand rear brake. Okay, so you're using that Recluse to its full advantage and you're braking with your hand. It's pretty good. P3 pipe guard. And Climb is what I wrap my head and body with for safe riding. Well, that's smart too. I do the same. What tank do you have on that? I don't see if you're telling us what tank that is, because that's a big ass tank. What is it, Safari? Because I don't know that there's a whole lot of people making the tanks for the Shercos. But anyways, this is a nice bike. Looks like it has a big tire. He took a picture outside. It's pretty. He opened the exposure up just enough to kind of conquer that backlitness, so I'm okay with there. He left a couple pieces off. You know, I get particular when I see this kind of stuff. I'm noticing the Stegs pegs in there. See, he mentioned most of my sponsors, and maybe he's heard on the show that I'm not a big fan of the Stegs pegs. But I tell you what, I went out to the Mint 400 this weekend, and I was blown away by how many people are running those. And I can see when you're riding through the hoops, the Stegs pegs, this little knuckle that kind of sits up. And they just kind of, for me, they sort of get in the way when I'm riding. But you got the Stegs pegs. I see that. You got a Kropovich exhaust, not mentioned. So you got to do a little better on the mentioning. I was going to fully roost you, but yeah, you left some of the details out, and I might look dumb if I don't answer what's on the thing here. I had to take a little sip there. But that's the bike, a 2021 Sherco SEF 300. So my question is, how's that bike holding up? How's your durability on the Sherco? And are you able to get parts for it when you need it? I haven't really ridden one of these for a long time, but I liked it when I did ride it. So that's what we have going on there. I'm going to look to see what our chat is doing right now, because I got to see. Dave Ritter says Roost. The Street Sweeper says Roost. And then they want to know how many gallon tank that thing is. Is Dave another Sherco guy? Let's see. Pono says, I want a bug out bike like that when he has poops go down. So, and Stegs pegs are like a recluse. It's a crutch. Ride with or ride without it. I run recluse because it makes me a better rider. So this I can see use for Stegs pegs. In Fast Company, another sponsor of this show, the makers of the amazing Flex handlebar. Like, my wrist has swelling on it right here. You can see that little knuckle. If I didn't have my Flex bars today, I wouldn't be able to ride tomorrow, and I'm going to go do another 300 miles tomorrow. So, yeah. That's why there's things. There's something for everybody. I don't necessarily know if it's a crutch. I think it's a crutch, but it's also a help if you know how to use it and it doesn't bother you. Yeah, Fast Company has these ones that they're sticking on, and I've seen this done on factory rally bikes. I've seen, they make these hooks almost that are like this. So there's a lot of reasons for these different things, and it kind of really depends on what your use is. So no Sherco trials bike only. So Dave, that means you have a Sherco trials bike, or you only have a trials bike? I have a gas, a 300, an old one. I used to have a newer one, but I did some horse trading. By the way, all my bikes are for sale. If you want a motorcycle, just let me know. I probably have it. It's for sale. KTM 1090 and 1190. Some really nice setup ones. I got to get rid of those. I have a KTM RFS. It's a 250 punched out to a 350. If you like carburetors, that's the bike for you. And what other things do I have? No Husabergs for sale. I almost bought another one. Sorry. I'm Jimmy Lewis, and I'm a Husaberg-aholic. I got a good question. Remove Trump says, do you know everything? No, I don't. But 9 out of 10 motorcycle questions I can answer with half of my brain shoved up my butt. So there we go. Let's see. Asher Lito has a question. Jimmy, I discovered my rear spring. Hey, everybody, we've got more roosts than endos. Oh, boy. The generator just upshifted. Let's see. Asher Lito says, I discovered my rear spring on my DRZ4 has sprung for 130-pound ride range, and my fork is sprung for 180. Is that likely? My DRZ doesn't like to turn. Yes. That's a real problem, because basically the bike's going to be squatted down in the rear with that kind of a setting, and you think about it, bikes are supposed to be level to turn at their optimum, and squatted down, that's not going to be very good. Would be cool. I don't have a price sheet for it. Just tell me what you want to pay for something, and then sometimes I let them go, and then other times I just tell you, no, it's not worth that. And do I have any 125s? No 125 two-strokes for sale. I might have a TTR 125 for sale. I'm not sure, because I might want to replace the. I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to replace the one that I'm selling with a newer one. And then Remove Trump says, what was the last bike you owned that used a B8ES? The last bike that I owned. What does my YZ125 use? I want to say the YZ125 still uses a BR. I don't know why I'm saying BR. I think BR because B means then R means resistor. But it might be a 9. But yeah, I know that we were throwing those in CR250 two-strokes for a while because they had a really expensive spark plug that they were putting in them, and those worked just fine. So, see, I can answer a lot of questions, and I don't really know everything, but I have a lot of motorcycle experience. And Shane Omoto has a question coming in. Anyways, back to the Roosterendo. This Sherco, it's going to get a roost from me, because he's got a lot of stuff on it. It's all very purposeful. Oh, I forgot to mention his GPS mount, but he did plug a lot of our sponsors, which is super helpful. It's nice to know. He's out riding it, even though it's snow or his mountain trails, he's down in the desert doing his thing. And good on you, Michael. Your bike roosts, and guess what? Since you're the only one, no matter what, even if it endoed, you win Roosterendo. You get a $100 gift certificate from Takamoto. That's takamoto.co. Go to their website and find out what you're going to spend your $100 on. Reply to the email you sent this to me on, and I'll get it forwarded over when I get back into civilization, because I'm not going to do any email homework, by the way. That's it. And then now Remove Trump asks me, am I still pro-Trump? Is this a baiting and switching technique? I don't talk about politics in the show. Hardly ever. The only thing I was pissed off at is that guy frickin' scheduled his State of the Union address at the same time as this show. But if you didn't know, we had better ratings. Just so you know. So anyways, 2017 KTM 450 SXF. I'm going back in my memory. I'm trying to figure out how this works. Would a flywheel weight reduce engine braking? Reduce. That's a good question. 5 ounces. Flywheel weight reduce engine braking. I think. I'm trying to remember. That's because I know that I've done flywheel weights. It doesn't. Yes, it does. It does decrease the engine braking effect. Because I'm remembering my old most of my flywheel weight times were on 2-strokes, and there's not a lot of engine braking on the 2-strokes. So I'm sitting there remembering kind of the effect of what it had. I liked the I liked how they smoothed the bike, and I'm not talking about like not stalling, but just the smoothing effect, like especially when your wheel kind of started breaking traction or came unweighted, or when your wheel got a lot of traction. I was a big fan of having some flywheel weight. But I will tell you, the biggest thing that affects your engine braking is idle speed. If and I'm pretty sure on the KTM you can very easily adjust the idle speed. And so if you want more or less engine braking, play around with the idle speed, and that will affect it quite a bit. So much easier than going to the effort of putting a flywheel weight on there. And the next thing that you want to kind of think about is if you have the ability to adjust ignition timing at the zero throttle, like the very low throttle position. So when you hear about a lot of the engine tuners that are working with the programmable ECUs, they can do stuff to that low RPM ignition advance, and then the really high end stuff is all timed with throttle position and engine RPM. Because some guys at super high RPM, they want very low engine braking, but at lower RPM they want it to kind of ramp back up. So there's a lot of tuning you can do inside of this that makes a difference. But let's see. Someone here is watching and says you're hosting from bed. Yeah, Trevor, what do you expect? That's the way I do things. There's not a lot of room. I could be sitting outside in 35-degree temperature. There's not a whole lot of room inside of this rig right here. You're looking down I could sit on my refrigerator. I put a motorcycle inside of here, by the way. So you should have commented on the show, and then I would have got to it quicker. You didn't have to text me, because I'm also getting messages. I'm also getting message from people that are late paying their rent. Let's see. Hey Jimmy, are you going to Trailblazers this weekend? No, Steve, I'm not. I'm gonna be riding. I hate to say it. I'll be out in someplace in the desert. And then somebody wants to know, did I hear that Mike Ness, and he's from Social Distortion, has a new album coming out? No. This isn't a music podcast. I can barely answer the motorcycle questions. So, and then Dave, so Ace Nelson, hello from Thailand, where every stoplight is like a 125 National Gate. Well, hey, I've been to Argentina, where every circle in town, the center circle, is at like 9 o'clock at night. It's moped racing. So there you go. And the best part is in Argentina, the air was so thick, we were in a second-story hotel, and all that two-stroke fumes went right up and inside. And I'm pretty sure I got high. So that's the way it works. Next question. Jeez, I'm gonna need to hit that tequila here. Dave Ritter says, how do we get on politics? Jimmy over the State of the Union address was every time. Jimmy for president. Yeah, a dirt bike in every house. There we go. Yeah, no politics. I learned not to talk politics or religion in bars, and I think that goes for just especially when you're talking to more than just someone, you can have a really good engaged conversation, because I don't mind talking about the other side of an issue that you can see. Even when I talk about motorcycle stuff, I'm very open to hearing how the other side works, because I've been around test riders, and we all don't. There's not one best bike for everybody. That's why I hate shootouts, unless they really do a good job of describing the bike. There's not a best bike, even though it's a Yamaha. Yamaha bringing you the show. This show is brought to you by Yamaha, and they don't want us to talk about politics either. Nobody does. So now the guy with the political name, I'm not even going to say it anymore. What place did you think had better tacos? Taco Mesa or El Toro Bravo? So this guy's from Southern California. I'm not big on the tacos down there, but the burritos, El Toro Bravo. We called it Cucachuque. We just made that name up because we didn't know what we were eating. Because you just go there and they would grab a handful of some meat stuff that could have been the dog or the cat, or it came from a really nice cow. I don't know, but it all tasted great. They chopped that stuff up. They threw it in a big old fat burrito that would last you for 2 days, and it was good. So El Toro Bravo. And the chips are bomb too. So almost as good as Ramiro's. If you're ever in Prump, come to Ramiro's. And come when I host my Tech Talk Taco Tequila Tuesday show, whatever we call it this much. Let's see. Mark says, what bike are you riding this weekend on your motorhome trip? Currently, I am riding I can't say because the show is brought to you by Yamaha. Because I'm riding a KTM 500. I'm riding my Baja bike, essentially my Nora course. This is my course checking bike. I'm not in Mexico, by the way. I'm in, I don't know where I'm at. I'm just in the middle of nowhere, really. But I'm doing some stuff. I'm looking at a course, and I'm doing long distances, and I need a big tank, and I need some street legality, and I need to, go for a long time. And I mean, I love riding, but it's not super fun riding. The big difference. Like, if I want to really have fun, I would take my Yamaha. There you go. So, good on that. I think I had another question to call up here. Let me see if I can find that question. There was someone else that was, I think we might have answered it, because it was the Yamaha, it was the GYTR head discussion. It was the maps. Oh, so someone asked me. Okay, so here's the question. Ray Harrison asked me, where do I find some maps to try, preferably for stock exhaust and engine uncorked? And he is talking about a Yamaha WR250. And so, since I'm the Yamaha WR250 guy, I said basically, I will discuss this on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday next week, I hope. And the reason I put I hope is because I knew I was going to be out here doing this, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to get this system, the test system for my tequila podcast at Ramiro's Mexican Restaurant in Pahrump. I would give you the phone number, but nobody should call them. You should just go there and have some birria tacos, because those are good. So I said, I'll discuss it. I said, but help me out. What bike, what year, and what type of riding? So he got back to me. He said 2025 WR250F, uncorked as per Yamaha GYTR paperwork, GYTR ECU, stock muffler. Gearing is now 1253. He's doing single track in the woods, switchbacks and creek crossings. He's in Washington State, and I wish it would just lug better in the slow stuff. And he sent it from outer space. So I think he's doing the Starlink thing too. So that's what Ray asked me, and I don't know if he's on the thing, but somebody from Alaska Railroad just showed up, and he's in Whittier, Alaska, and he wanted to know what we are discussing tonight. Well, I'm going to discuss how to do maps on your power tuner for your Yamaha, but I'm going to tell you that your LTZ has 2 extra wheels for this show. Unless we're just talking about the engine, then it's a DRZ 400 engine, and you just want to make sure that you don't have too soft of a rear shock spring and the wrong front fork spring so your bike turns. Right, Ashleyito? So, anyways, Renee is still there. But I don't think, it wasn't Renee that asked me about the maps. Was it? He asked me about the head. This is Ray Harrison, different guy. So, I'll go into kind of the tuning. So he just wanted to know, he basically just wanted a map. And I'm like, for what? Because, like, where do we get maps to try? So the Power Tuner app has a couple that come embedded in it, and then you can go on forums, and there's a lot of guys that'll get you maps. You can email me, and then I'll be a smartass and say, what do you want? What do you want your map to do? Like, what do you want your bike to do? Because I'm not being a smartass. I'm just trying to help you, because I'll just send you a map. And what is it? Like, he did after I asked, he said he wanted it to lug better and do some stuff. That's probably the hardest thing on the 250F. He's already done some gearing stuff to get a lower gear ratio, so that I think he's more worried a little bit about the stalling and kind of like the low end throttle response. And with the 250F, you've just got to kind of work that. You got to work around that a little bit. So I did send him some maps, because when he got back to me, it's like, okay, I have some stuff. And I didn't ask him, but I'm hoping he uncorked it. He said per the Yamaha instructions, because a lot of people uncork the WR, they pull the whole end cap off and they turn it into a bazooka muffler, and the bike doesn't like that. No bike does. It's basically an untuned muffler. It's not tuned anymore. The stock muffler is heavy, but it's really good at being quiet. But it's the biggest gain you can make is by just going from a tail section. A muffler just slid onto the stock header is probably the biggest single gain you can make after the GYTR kit, which you already had done. So he wants to go with the stock muffler, and I applaud him for trying to keep it quiet. And I have a map, because I tested a whole bunch with the stock muffler because I liked it, and I had a map that basically advanced the ignition and added some fuel in certain spots, there's a place where that stock muffler kind of, we'll call it, plugs up, where it doesn't flow. But the most of the other maps are too rich there, and then after that they become too lean. So if you kind of massage that area and then richen it up on top, that bike runs really, really good. So with the stock muffler, it never have the kind of the roll-on torque. It still kind of needs to be downshifted to get that acceleration that an open muffler will, but that helps out. And yeah, that's 4x4 quad country. So yeah, I hate to say it, I got a couple Honda 4x4 quads. They're for the ranch. They drag things, they carry stuff around. But my friends that come from Alaska say that you guys have a thaw season that lasts forever, and motorcycles get stuck too much. When you have big fat tires, you can ride over that. So anyways, and then the guy with the political name says, my buddy is asking, will Suzuki go out of business by 2028? No, they will not. And Asher Lito says, I bought the DRZ from a woman who divorced her husband and no longer needed the bike. I wonder if the ex-husband purposely made the spring terrible to get back at her. Was she riding it? Some people they just change things like that. They don't know. And some people, they'll do anything they can to get the seat height down. And 180 would kind of be maybe one spring rate up. I don't know. That might be stock on that bike, for an 180-pound rider, because that is kind of the stock range. But they might have just gone with a low spring on the back to get it to squat down. But I'm glad I made fun of you, Ashlito. So, let's see. Yes, it is Jessig. Snow Machines 2. Yeah, I don't understand what that might be Alaskan for something. No, but yeah, Snow Machines, I understand those. Somebody gave me one last year. They asked me to change the pistons for it, and it seems like it lives at my house now. As you've mentioned, you're a fan of the FMF system for the YZ250F WR engine, but what do you think about the Dr. D? I have not tried it, so I don't know. I do know that, Doug Dubach was a Yamaha development test rider forever, and for him, and I don't know how much he's involved with the company anymore. I know he did sell it. I don't really see them pumping the motocross stuff anymore. So I can't tell you. I know in the old days his Yamaha pipes were really good. A little loud for my taste, but he really got into it before there was a lot of sound regulations. And as the sound regulations started coming down, that's where some of the guys that really knew what they were doing, they weren't just, changing a little bit of header length or something like that. When they had to start bringing the sound down, then it took some rocket scientists to figure this stuff out. So back in the day, yeah, the DRD pipes were really good. Haven't tried one for a long time, so I don't really know. This guy JB Black says 17.1 and you weren't there. So I think that's a slam at me that he got a better lap time than I could have at the Hot Shoe Hall of Fame. I don't mean to just make this a sponsor plug every time you talk to me, but Hot Shoe Hall of Fame is Gene Wood's racing experience on Fremont Street in Vegas. So if you're ever down in Vegas and you think you're fast in a go-kart, well, go down there. It's the end of the street. Go find the Denny's at the end of Fremont Street where you can't drive. You can just walk. You go over by the Denny's, and it's in this little corner, and it is the Hot Shoe Hall of Fame. If you can find my plaque and take a picture next to it and text me, I might tell Gene that there's a stalker there and I'll have you kicked out. So that's what happened. Okay, here we go. Roger says, did I miss something? Why are you in somebody's bed? Well, I'm in my bed. I'm fine. I went riding all day. I'm out in my little motorhome, and this is the only location I can set up this whole studio. So I will switch over to my OnlyFans account after for all the bed activities that you guys were looking forward to. But that costs money. And then our political guy is poking with more questions. He says, I'm not even going to answer it. It says, yes, Alaska guy, I'm sitting in a sleeper bed in a semi. Well, I'm actually on top of a Lance trailer. I'm in the cab over of a Lance trailer right now, and I'm making Trevor Hunter jealous because I'm doing my job at Dirt Bike Test from my bed. And that's probably what he aspires to do all the time. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, Asher Lito says his DRZ springs are 4.8s, not the stock 4.4s. Thanks for clearing that up because I don't know the spring rates of every particular thing. So again, let's see. I've managed to go for a whole hour in here. I just got off the bike after 300 miles. Just fired up all this stuff, climbed in here, having a little thing. I might have some Four Freedoms though. Tonight's tequila on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday is this hooch that I found stuffed in the back of one of my cabinets. It's at least 2 to 3 years old in a plastic bottle, and this thing cycles between freezing and over 110 degrees temperature all year long. But I kid you not. If for mixing, this stuff is actually really good. And if you're ever doing blind tequila taste tests and you want to know if your friends know their tequilas, that's a great one to throw in there because it actually is pretty good for a plastic bottle. And I hardly taste the plastic. Not much at all. Okay. So Jerry, glad you got that 17.1. You're lucky I wasn't there. Because even though the last time we raced, I beat you. Yep. Does Trevor sleep next to me? No. He's Asian. I'm not into that. So, if everybody wonders why Trevor's so smart, that's probably why. Okay. I think. And Mark Daniels says low budget is good. You gotta, if you don't try certain things, you don't know. And I'll roll this into motorcycles because I don't just want to talk about drinking all the time in this podcast. Live pod show from my trailer camper bed. Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, episode number 275. My name is Jimmy Lewis. I answer 9 out of 10 questions. You ask them in the chat, or you send me an email, and it comes on this show. So, if you don't try the stuff that's low budget, you might not know how good the stuff that's high budget is, and you might not know what the price really is. Like, what is the price is the price, I always say. And I see things that are priced way out of their performance range, and I see things that are priced that are really good for what they cost. But for me, there's nothing like free. And when a lot of times when people ask questions about aftermarket stuff, the first thing I'll do is I'll try to guide them down a thing to say, do you really need what you're asking for? Do you have a specific need for it? Unfortunately, I think I talked to a guy out of a Yamaha GYTR head today, even though Yamaha does sponsor this podcast, because I didn't think it was the right next step for him, just based on the limited information I had. So we try to be really honest with this information, and I was, at one time, I turned my tires around all the time. I used to use a razor blade and cut square edges back into my knobbies. I would flip sprockets around when I could. I welded rebar onto a XR80 frame because it kept breaking because I didn't know any other way to keep my frame straight. So I've done a lot of these different things over the years. I've gone from the poor kid who didn't have a penny to the guy that's got everything for free to being a factory rider and having bikes built and catered exactly to me, and to learn the difference between what real works bike is versus what people think it is. So I have a pretty good range of stuff. I've ridden many works bikes, not mine, other riders' factory works bikes, whether they were supercross, motocross, off-road, rally, whatever. I've ridden even factory adventure bikes, allegedly. I don't know why. There is a factory adventure bike, but they were prototype stuff. So anyhow, there's a lot of different levels to this stuff, but it's like you got to ask yourself, like, I see guys with worn out tires wanting to know if they should send their suspension off to get it fixed because their bike isn't working. And I'm like, it's the tire. And it might not be just the worn out tire, it might be the type of tire that they're using, whether it's the brand or the tread type or whatever. Same thing. They're sending their suspension off. I'm like, where's your sag set at? They're like, what? Like, how do you... So sometimes roll back and ask yourself what you're really trying to accomplish. And some people just want to have the bling and get the cool things and whatever. I have no problem with that. I think that's great. But just kind of understand where you're at, because you might be utterly disappointed when you pay all this money and you get the 1% return, but that part is designed to give you the 1% when you've already got the other 99. Hope that helps you. Right from bed. I wish I had the button, the more you know button, but I don't have anything with me. Barely can keep the show running. Oh, the generator just upshifted again. That's a good sign. Okay. Mark Daniels says I fixed it because TTTTT is good again. Thank you. Appreciated, Mark. Patrick Beatty says, speaking of politics, did you see Yamaha Motor Corporation is pulling out of the state of California? It looks like they're moving to Georgia. Is that real news or fake news? No, that's absolutely true. And they had begun moving a long time ago. They had a facility in Georgia. They moved a big portion of their staff and everything out, but they're sitting on a huge chunk of very, very expensive real estate in a state that isn't very pro-business friendly. And I'm pretty sure they just looked at it and said, we can sell this for a lot of money, and we can scale down whatever operations we have here and move the remaining stuff to Georgia. Honda is doing that, has almost done that. And look at all the other companies, like Toyota and a lot of the other, vehicle manufacturing companies, let alone some of the, you hear about companies like Tesla and SpaceX and all these companies. I don't know. I don't pay that much attention to it. I just know that, yeah, it's business is tough in California. I mean, yeah, it's. I just remember it started with we had a solvent tank, and the amount of paperwork we had to have. This is at Cycle World magazine back in the day. The amount of paperwork that we had to have a solvent tank in our shop was astronomical. I've never, because I was a shop kid, and I had to fill it out, and if come to find out, I'm not authorized to sign for a corporation, so I had to have a corporation. I had to go find people to sign stuff, but it came back, and then we had to contract with Safety Clean. We almost had to post a bond in case something spilled. It was, yeah, welcome to California, and that was 20 years ago. I had a diesel truck, a diesel box van, that they reformulated the fuel, so its efficiency went down by a huge factor. Like, it used to get 18 miles to the gallon, and all of a sudden it started getting closer to 10 or 12, and the fuel put out 4 or 7% less hydrocarbons, but now I'm burning, 20% more fuel. That works great. Yeah, California. Okay, sorry, I'm not political. I'm just telling you what I experienced. Okay. And then he's calling me a cheap ass and telling me to buy the good stuff. I buy it all. I try the different stuff. I know tequila values along with motorcycle values. And Gary Drummond says, I'm looking cozy in my bomb shelter. If there was a bombing right now, I think I'm safe. I think I'm in a good spot. It won't affect me. I'll be cozy because the temperature won't change too much. It is definitely a laid-back show, Flying Brian. It's the only way to do the show. Laid back. Yeah. I don't have gin and juice, but I got my cheap strawberry soda. I haven't even had dinner yet. I haven't eaten anything. I ate a couple nuts. And not the kind of nuts that you political people are thinking about. That's the only thing I've had to eat all day. Because I was riding my motorcycle all day. It didn't really stop. I just didn't have time. Just got back before dark. Look at the show picture that I put up on the Facegrams or whatever it is. And you'll see when I got back, the sun was almost going behind the mountain. It got cold really, really quick. So, okay, I know what I was going to check. There's one other place. There's one other place for questions tonight. One more place. And I'm going to try to help this out. So I put up a video. God, I actually did work. I put up a video about the 2026 Yamaha YZ250 FX. And I'm going to go ahead and answer those questions right here. Let's see. Promenade says, so proven, so modern, so reliable, hard to go wrong. Thank you. So if you're wondering about this video, it's the Yamaha YZ250 FX. It's my first impression. And Bob Down says, if it was a 350, it would be the best bike ever. I tend to agree. And then Hello Dirt loves the Yamaha 250Fs. Some 2 Zub 43X something. Oh, desert test. Maybe a real quick, easy comparison of what the YZ250X in the desert. Thinking about switching to the 4-stroke. Yeah, that's. I don't know. For me, the 250 FX 4-stroke and the YZ250 2-stroke are kind of two completely different animals. 2-stroke and 4-stroke always seem to be, and I don't even know if one is better than the other in a lot of circumstances. There's certain circumstances on the fringes where one is definitely better than the other. But when you kind of get into the middle, I think they both kind of do the job. The 2-stroke will definitely make more power. The next question is it's a comment. Bruce Morrison says, I would love to have a YZ250FX, but I want to make it street legal, so I think I should get the WR. It's a tough call. Well, Bruce, the thing about the WR is it comes with the lights. And it depends on the state you're in, whether or not it's easy to do, make it street legal or not. But the problem with the WR is you have to uncork it, where the YZ250FX kind of comes uncorked already. And it's really not that hard to add lights. So for me, it would probably come down to, if I was trail riding and dual sporting more, then I would go WR. If I had any ambition to race it, I would go FX. Another one says you can't go wrong with the Yamaha. Brad tells me to race. No, I did my race already this year. And Joe Giella says, I bought a 2024 YZ250FX and absolutely loves it. He's a District 37 desert racer. This bike is ready. Hare and Hounds, GP, beginner, intermediate, expert, can do it all. However, it's a little stiff for my liking at 5'10", 170 pounds. So I'm going to read more. I don't race anymore, pretty much trail riding, having fun, but it's a great all-do bike. I go back and forth from this bike in my 2003 YZ250. So Joe, you should answer the guy's question about the on the chat over here about the other one. MX Engineer says, lots of comments about the suspension feeling firm or stiff. Can you get plush feeling by opening the clickers, say 4 to 6 out, or is a revalve needed? What do you think of the engine and chassis character compared to your previous generation Yamaha 250s Fs? Always appreciate your insight. So it is a stiffer feeling, and I talk about it in the video. It's a race bike, and I think there's more guys that are taking this particular type of bike, like an FX. So someone's taking a YZ250FX or a KTM XC, and they're taking it to the track. They're like riding vet track days, or they're racing like Grand Prix, which have motocross tracks built in. And the lean is to make the suspension work there more than it does on, let's say, a casual Saturday afternoon single track trail. And yeah, so it's stiffer. So will 4 to 6 clicks soften it up? Yes, but at my weight, when I open it up to soften it up, it packs. It rides a little bit low in the stroke. So I tend to not go with, if I want to soften up the suspension on like an FX style bike, my first go-to is typically to open the rebound up a little bit. Not so that it gets springy, but so that it rebounds quicker, so it holds itself up. And the rebound does have an effect on the compression sometimes. Mostly because when it rebounds, it gets a little bit higher in the stroke. It's in a little softer spot, so it ends up kind of plushing it up. But it's all personal feel. But take that. I'm going to say that one more time. This is a nugget. If we pulled out nuggets on this show, if your bike's feeling stiff and opening up the compression clickers aren't working for you, try putting the compression clickers back and open the rebound up. That freer rebound a lot of times can cause the suspension to rebound a little farther and get into a softer part of the stroke. There we go. I wish I had the more you know button again. So there we go. Mark, I don't want to hear about your dinner. It's not fair right now because my stomach's growling. And Gary says, a modern 250F is all you need for the NAR. Less prone to stalling compared to a 350F. Gary, I'm going to 100% disagree with you. I mean, well, it depends on, you can tune any bike to stall or not stall better, but a good running 350F tends to stall less than a 250. Now I'm thinking about this, kind of depending on the rider, because I'm thinking about stalling at super, super low RPMs, and now I'm thinking that some riders on the 250F would never let it go down to those low RPMs. They wouldn't trust the torque. So maybe you are right. That's yeah. It kind of depends. And this is something for you to try. Oh, here's another nugget. Yeah, thanks, Casmith, Casmizers. I'll say it right one of these days. I'll have a co-host tell me how to pronounce your name because it's got a Z on the end and it screws me up. Another nugget of if you're out practicing or you're riding or doing stuff and your bike stalls, find a slight incline that ramps up and it makes it, and see if your bike will idle up it. Just in maybe whatever first, second gear. See if it'll idle up without using any throttle and see if it stalls. Okay? Then turn the throttle to maybe like 1 or 2%. I'm talking very, very little, but not zero. So you make sure that the throttle is just barely cracked. And this is mostly fuel injection bikes, but it also works on carbureted bikes. And take your hand on the throttle tube, and you're like on level ground before it starts incline, at 1%, and then squeeze the grip so that it cannot turn. And let the bike torque up the hill. So you're at 1% or 2% throttle, not 0%. And see if the bike stalls. Because most of the stalling that I encounter comes from a well-timed, or I want to say, a very poorly timed, or you're not really timing it, because you're a bad timed shut off of the throttle, a bad timed 0% throttle. So you roll the throttle off at the wrong time, and it just happens to be like maybe right on the intake stroke, and it's just enough to where it loads the bike up and slows the engine down so that the mist of fuel is not right and whatever. Or maybe maybe it's right as exhaust valve is opening, and it's just enough to where it doesn't really pump it out, it slows it down, and then that intake valve opens. There's still a lot of hot shit inside there, and bad things happen. You see, I visualize motors all the time. I'm sorry, but a lot of the stalling is because you go to zero throttle when you shouldn't. And this is like where a recluse clutch really helps, because the recluse clutch, like when the RPM drops down, it disengages the clutch, so all of a sudden there's no load on the engine anymore. It's able to kind of do what it needs to do, so that less prone to stalling. But really good riders don't go to zero throttle. They don't shut all the way down. And sometimes just running your idle up a little bit higher will eliminate the stalling problems. But play with that. See what it takes to get your bike to stall. And then as you find an incline, you get better at it. Then practice rolling the throttle off, letting the RPM come way down, rolling it off, and not going to zero. And seeing how reluctant the bike is to stall then. Because you can time it right, and you can make it stall. It's that easy. So, there we go. California Smithers. That's their name. Got it. Thank you. See, all it takes is a little bit of help. You got to let the suspension do the work. And he's in California, and we just ratted on California. We say, hey, hopefully we all move out of there, and then you can buy bigger property. The weather is really nice. The weather is awesome there. Let's see here. T. Hartman says, Jimmy, what's your opinion on the airbag armor that has started to appear on the market? I'm OAF, which means old as farts, 61, and I've been broken too many bones in my torso. So, interesting. I just started wearing one of the Alpine Stars bags myself. Not all the time. Like, I didn't wear one today. I don't wear it with a backpack because I don't know exactly how it's going to work with a backpack. And I noticed they eliminated the backpack wearing in any of the events that require the airbags. I think it's a good thing, and they're getting better and better all the time because they're always collecting data. So, I'm like I said, when I'm racing now, I'm wearing one. When I by one race a year, but when I'm out practicing racing, when I'm kind of pushing it, and I know I could take a little dump ski, I will wear it. So I think it's a good thing, and if you've got the money, I don't think it could. I don't think it would hurt. So, and I did break some ribs last year, so oh man, I'm so thankful those don't hurt anymore. They finally came back around, but boy, 6 months of hell. And I think an airbag might have helped that one. So yeah, I don't think it will hurt anything. I'm not sure. I know the Alpine Stars is really on top of their game with that. So, and he says, I'd like to become a better rider, but no schools. Well, I can't afford insurance, so uh, maybe one of these days I'll get the online courses back up and running. Hey, if you want to take a beginner online course that tells you all the things you really probably forgot already that need to go, JimmyLewisOffroad.com. Let's see, I ride Jeep ATV single tracks on a KTM 450. Perfect. So I think there's some other things. Hey, we got a badge. We got 100 messages tonight. That's great. That's good because we have 39 million people watching this show live from my bed in my motorhome because that's the only place I can do it. Again, show brought to you by Yamaha, by Climb. I am super comfy wearing my Climb clothes, and if you think that I'm taking this off before I go to bed, you got another thing coming. So, if you want me to take it off, you can go to my OnlyFans after this show, and then we'll discuss that later. So there we go. And Gary Drummond says he's on his third Tech Vest, and he's sold. Wow. How do you go through 3 of those things? Or did you just get upgraded ones? Because I know they've been making changes to them and stuff. And have you had it deploy on you? I have not had it deploy yet. So, again, I I had a really long discussion with a really interesting guy I met at a bar. Well, actually, we went there for dinner, and he was out there on his nicely equipped KTM 890, I think it was 790, 890, probably 890. We just started chit chatting, and we were just talking about gear and different things like that. And he said he says he dresses for the crash. And I told him, I said, if I thought I was going to crash, I wouldn't get on the motorcycle. So I don't dress for the crash. I dress so that I can be as effective on the bike as I can, which means comfortable, but also protected. So I have different levels of stuff. I'm always wearing knee pads, sometimes knee braces, always wearing boots, always helmet, always the normal stuff you see. The upper body protection, though, it kind of depends on my setup, like what I'm doing. Sometimes I'll actually wear a jacket that might have a little bit of padding in it, or maybe just even the jacket to kind of help with some impact absorption. But it's kind of rare that if I'm not kind of race training or, like riding aggressively, that I go to the chest protection level of stuff. Because a lot of times I have a backpack on, and then the chest protector and the backpack don't play well, and then you get very uncomfortable. And when you're on the bike for 8 or 9 hours, you start fidgeting with something, you stand a better chance to crash doing that than you do anything else. So, yeah, I don't really have an OnlyFans, but I talk about it all the time. I should get one. I think I'd probably make more money than doing this. Tech Vest is from Canada. Okay. He says upgraded along the way. Okay, good. Yeah, I think I do remember. I think Tech Vest used to actually make an air inflatable thing also. Like it didn't deploy. It was an air. It had air in it, and you could set a certain pressure on it. And if it's the one I'm thinking of, I had one as a test item back at Dirt Rider or Cycle World days, and I was wearing it. I was pumped up. I was wearing it, and I had a get off. I was on an XR400, and somehow it was like kind of in a sandwashy, kind of a sandwash rut or something. I caught a rut and high-sided or flipped off the bike and landed on a rock. And I had to go back and look at what I landed on, because I knew I landed in rocks. I went and saw where I landed. I'm like, oh my God, this thing, it did its job. So yeah, air is good. Jail $20 is $20, says Gary. Yep, exactly. Sometimes you got to figure out how to stay afloat around here. I thought we hired somebody to handle ad sales at Dirt Bike Test to get us some more money, and I was supposed to send out some proposals or something like that and work on some marketing partnership deals. I got busy. I went riding. It was really good. Hey, more video questions here to go back onto the comments from our videos. Let me roll back in here. I think there's a thing here. We have a community, believe it or not. I'm not going to bag on the ones that complain about Trevor, because they say stuff to him like, thanks for actually testing the bikes instead of just riding them on the road. And they said, you were ripping, dude. Oh, boy. Nobody said that I was ripping on my YZ250FX. Hey, if you want to see someone hold a bike wide open, watch the YZ250FX video. Let's see. Carrie Old Man says, as a typical genius off-road noob who can barely handle his 450L, I'm about 99% sure I should have bought one of these or something like it. He's talking about one of the smaller bikes, like the KLX 230 Sherpa. So, our YZ250FX project bike, our 2024 Yamaha, a motor is powered by electricity and an engine is powered by combustion fuel. Just to let you know, says DC Ferg. Thank you, DC Ferg. I wonder what his channel has on it. I'm going to look at his channel right now. He has 78 subscribers, and he has a picture of him riding. And it seems like he gets lost a lot. But I'm glad that he could help us out with our thing. So, a motor is electrical and a engine is combustion. And then King Williams says, on our Vet Rider's Dream Dual Sport bike, and this is one big advert. Well, King Williams, I hate to tell you, but we didn't get paid anything for that. So it's not an advert, and you have 3 subscribers. Oh, I love the YouTubes. I love it. Cheap Amazon pipe for a Honda CR230F. And Albert Wernman says, my question is about the fitment of the pipe to the head. Mine is super loose, and there was no gasket or anything with mine when received. What did you do to seal it to the motor? Well, ours sealed up to the motor, but when you're buying the super cheap Amazon pipes, remember that some days they actually weld that part on, and some days they don't. So just so you know, like I say, the more we know. Let's see here. Dirt and Iron on YouTube wears the tech vest. Okay. Let's see. Josh Heron, that's just when Daytona Superbike main sponsors OnlyFans. Oh, what does he do on OnlyFans? They're trying to get more content creators that do other things. And T. Harmon says you would sign a liability waiver to take my course. Yeah, everybody signed a liability waiver, but I need to have insurance because I need to be insured in case your insurance company doesn't like what they think happened, and then I have to have insurance because of the permits that I had, and I had to have insurance because I have stuff to lose. And so a liability waiver only goes so far, because generally with your insurance becomes the backing of some sort of lawyers to start with. And people that think the liability thing is bullshit here. People think they can get something. They just go after it with lawyers knowing that you're going to tap out at some point because they're going to try to run your lawyer's fees up to what they want to get. And lawyers that work on compensation don't care. They just know how to file all that crap. So, yeah. I don't know that the Tech Vest is is it a deploy on impact? That's my question for the Tech Vest, by the way. Back to our YouTube comments. Like I said, if you comment on any of these videos, they end up coming through our YouTube. And I'm looking here to see if there's anything new. Justin Kellogg wants to know if we changed the gearing on our KX450X review. I don't know, because Trevor did it. And then, let's see. Lots of comments on that Yamaha 250. Anyways, if you're watching and you wonder what we're talking about, go to our site. You have to type in dirtbiketest.com. I know it's hard. You have to use these fingers. You can't. Maybe Google will feed it to you. I don't know. Actually, while you're at this, like and subscribe. That actually does help. It does really help because they have algorithms or something like that. Bailey Mountain says on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, he says that third microphone needs to be upgraded. Here's the cool thing. He doesn't have any subscribers, but he is a sound guy because he has something about the piano on his YouTube channel. So he knows something about sound. And if you're a regular viewer of this show, you know I don't know anything about sound, and I barely turn the damn microphone on half the time for at least the first 5 minutes of the show. So you're right. I'll upgrade the microphone. I'll talk to the guy who gave it to me for free and see if he can give me another one for free. Gary Robotalica Music says, can you bump start the Honda XR150L? Yeah, you can bump start it. Yeah, no problem. I'm pretty sure I bump started a couple times after I stalled it when I was going down a hill. So, any other good questions on this? No regrets on our Vet Rider's Dream build. Let's see. I think we've answered most of the other questions, so we're all good. All the other ones are just really things. And then Gary Drummond says, does a KTM 690 Enduro qualify for a Roost or Endo? Well, if you're asking me, it generally endos, because I'm not a big fan of that particular motorcycle, which go back to the episodes in the 200, the 130 range. I'm just guessing. We were on it on the KTM 690 Husky 701. It was kind of a thing for a while. But no, it qualifies, yeah. If it's your bike, send a picture in it. Don't be like other people. There was a time when people are just taking screenshots of bikes off the internet and then sending them in, trying to win some taco bucks. Rooster Endo is brought to you by Takamoto, by the way. Go to takamoto.co. They have lots of cool stuff for your bike, lots of bolt-on stuff. They have fuel pumps for KTMs. I just got the 3,000-hour fuel pump for one of my bikes. I actually had one that was doing something funky, pulled it out. It was actually a fuel pressure regulator, but I said, hey, while it's out, might as well upgrade. So it's going in, it's probably going to go on the bike that I have outside right here because it's going back to Baja real soon, and this thing has like over 500 hours on it, I believe now. I don't know how many hours. It has a lot. And so, yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt to put another 3,000 hours on it with a good fuel pump. So, there we go. I think that's about it because I'm hungry. Mark's probably eating lasagna, laughing at me because I haven't had... I'm making tostadas tonight. It's Tostada, Tech Talk Tostada Tuesday for Jimbo here. So, hey, I didn't hear how the Husaberg did at the Mint 400, but you know what? A Ducati won the overall at the Mint 400. So Ducati just got their first big overall win in off-road racing. That was pretty cool. What else is going on? Sign up for NORA. if you want to keep the tradition of NORRA and having motorcycles there with their own unique course, you better sign up this year because it won't happen next year if we don't get a certain number of entries. Tell a friend to do that too. Also tell a friend to subscribe to this thing. Just subscribe to everything I do. And I'll give you a discount. I'll give you the discount code for OnlyFans if I see you subscribe on these things. If you have a question about anything you've heard on the show, you can go ahead and email me, jimmy@dirtbiketest.com. It's pretty easy. I answer most of them with the thing. I will answer on the next Tech Talk Taco Tuesday because I hate typing. I like riding. I'm into riding my dirt bike, and that's what I go. Gary Drummond says Taco Mike is a top shelf guy. That's good. I'm glad that he's being a top shelf guy because I don't like working with people that are not top shelf guys. And I met Taco Mike because I came across one of his white sheets for a KTM 500 on the modification stuff, and it was very, very accurate. And usually someone that's selling stuff kind of leaves out the important, the stuff you can do for free or the stuff you can do to low cost. They go straight to the stuff you can do for anything. And by the way, go buy a Yamaha. Just go to the Yamaha dealer. Tell them you learned about it on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. You want the funnest bikes out there, and yeah, that's all I can say. Ray Groom, Spike Racing says, is that off-road Ducati bike based off the motocross version? Yeah, it absolutely is. I'm pretty sure that they probably were racing a motocross one. I don't know if they have different transmissions. I haven't looked at the spec sheets, but we're supposed to be getting one, and I'm going to be really excited to ride it. I'm really surprised at how they are doing as a first-year bike in the Supercross racing, and then for them to go out and win a race like the Mint. Like I tell you what, so the first place bike was the Ducati. There was a lot of oil all over it. It was some little parts had fallen off. There's different things. They did not have an easy run, but they got it there and they won. And nothing can be taken away. And then Johnny Campbell, JCR's bike with Preston Campbell and Nolan Cade on it. That bike looked brand new. There wasn't a drip of oil on the bike. It looked really nice. And then Dalton Shire's Kawasaki, third place. It looked like it had some problems too. There was a lot of oil all over. Pretty much from the cylinder back, there was oil on a lot of these bikes, and I don't know if they were overfilled or they blew out, whatever. I think I heard that maybe the oil fill cap came off the Ducati for a little while, but who knows? Hey, that's those are interesting. I mean, and for them to be doing that well, and Triumph, I rode the Triumph bikes and I know how good they are, and to see them, and maybe it has a little bit to do with the rider level on the bike, but you see them pulling hole shots and things like that. The bikes people aren't producing junk anymore. So yeah, we're working on a 450 off-road comparison. I'll just put it there, and we'll tell you. I didn't say shoot, I said comparison, so we can compare the bikes and contrast them and tell you how they work. Okay, the generator just downshifted. I'm shutting this show off, and California Smitters says he can't wait to ride the new Ducati. Well, if you're in California and you're a legit guy, you should contact us and be a test rider or something like that. If you can put a period at the end of the sentence and write some impressions. So you never know. You might get something good from watching this stupid podcast show thing. With that, cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for however you're viewing this, listening to it, whatever you're doing. I'm sorry I was hanging out in my bed in my motorhome, but I'm not sorry one bit because I'm going riding tomorrow morning. And with that, I will see you on the trail. Cheers, everybody. Okay. Still have the same problem. I have to figure out how to turn this show off. Go away. If you liked what you saw in this video, come check us out over at dirtbiketest.com on the webs. We have bike tests, product tests, a lot of fresh dirt, and you can even support us by clicking through our links. Hopefully, we'll see you out in the trail.